Okay, testing 1 2 1 2 testing 1 2. Welcome everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic week so far, and we are going to be underway here shortly. So we'll do our obligatory sound check and check on the picture as well. So let's just have a look here. Sound check. So I'll just get some quick feedback on whether that volume's coming through okay. And I can see that I'm presenting. Yep, all good. Thanks, Jason. Cheers. All right, guys. So let's. Good stuff, Richard. Cheers. Let's jump into this. So basically, what we're looking for at the moment, I'm going to be taking you through tonight. Just mainly look at our top 10 and comparing the top 10 with our Renko strategies. I want to talk about the need to run your optimization and why we do it, and why we make it a process of optimizing monthly, and what are the components we need to look at for optimization, but also address the issue that, well, you've got to come to terms, or you've got to identify what the optimal optimization is for your strategy. So that's another element that we're going to cover tonight. So one thing that we have touched on previously is that obviously as a group we know that our protocol is that once a month, no matter what system you're tracking, you should be giving it a bit of a tune-up, as in looking at your times of the day that you're potentially trading. You know, can you step outside the times of the day that you want to trade and optimize on additional times of the day? Should you be looking at your stops and targets? Are they being affected by the market conditions? And when I talk about stops, I'm talking about your initial stop and your trailing stop, and then obviously your target, whether it's a fixed target or a volatility type target. So they're some of the things that we're going to talk about tonight. I'm just going to take you through the optimization process that we generally go through, and we're going to have a look at how that has impacted on, or that could potentially impact on you. So here's an example of what I've done this week. I'm going to take the example of Momentum 51. Now, Momentum 51, if we have a look at our systems here, the latest update has Momentum 51 sitting at kind of the top of the food chain as far as systems. So if we break these down, Momentum 51 has been able to, it's dropped a second, sorry. Momentum 51 has made its way up the chart since it was developed and tested and forward tested by Nick. So over the last 6 to 8 months, he's put together a fairly robust strategy. Not really much in the way of optimization at all. I haven't done too much to it. It probably would have done a lot better if we had have been optimizing it as per the required standard of once a month. But I'm going to take you through an example tonight of what you should be doing with your strategies, and just keeping on top of things and making sure that they're running well. And we'll compare the momentum system and a couple of the other strategies with our Renko systems and see how they're going as well. Because remember, this is week 3 of us tracking some of the momentum systems and the Renko systems. So I've got them in there, and we want to just keep an eye on how they're performing and whether they're doing, whether they've done really well in the testing and the back testing and the forward testing. But then when we go live in the market, or we're tracking them in a simulation, depending on how you're doing it, obviously, whether they hold up and are robust enough. So remember too that we need to make sure, if we're trading the Renko, that we're wanting to go with the order. And I'll just bring up that order so we're all aware of it. And the order that we're talking about, because it's an entry order, it's the order is this bar on close. So I'll just bring that up. So if you're using the Renko system, whether it's a continuation, the breakout, the trend, doesn't matter which system it is, making sure that you've got this selected, this bar on close, so it's giving you a more accurate entry. So just getting back to our top 10, as I mentioned, Momentum 51 has been a really good performer. You can see the addition of the Renko systems. They're doing pretty well. So I'd like to see how they go over the coming month, and see where they sit. We'll add some more systems there because we've got a fairly good number of systems there in relation to a number of markets that we've been developing for the trend and the continuation. So we'll add some more of those in as well. Now, if I jump into the momentum system, and here it is here, this is momentum 1. Now, if you have a look at this, I'll add this workspace to Dropbox, but if you open this up, I'll just close that for a second. If you open this workspace up, you'll see that it's got a 5-minute chart and it's running off the 1 minute. The latest 1 minute chart is the one that I've optimized, and I've only really optimized the time of the day. So it's the cycles come around once a month. I need to do some optimization on this system. So what I've done is I've remembered too that the optimization comes in the form, because this system's been broken up into longs and shorts. We need to optimize on both the longs and the shorts. Now, what do you think if I'm optimizing my system and I'm going in and running my strategy, and I'm kind of trying to get the most out of what's happening? The first thing I want to do when I run my strategy, and we'll go back to the initial one, when I look at the performance, it's starting to kind of fall away a little bit. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load up and have a look at what's happening with my days of the week. So where am I making money? Where am I potentially losing money? You know, what's happening across the board? Because remember, this system is a strategy that's trading longs and shorts. We'll just double check that. Some of them are geared more to the long side, but this has got a good split, hasn't it? It's actually got a good split between longs and shorts. So what I need to do, if I'm going through my monthly cycle of testing, I need to grab my best set. These are my best settings at the moment, aren't they? And what I originally had was I had a base system. I optimized it. I came up with these best settings, and then what I did is I went into a level 3 analysis, and I looked at the times of the day, or the days of the week, sorry, and I got rid of the days that weren't profitable. So any day, like I've excluded Sunday, any days that weren't profitable, I'm not trading Friday on the long side. Any of those days, Sunday shorts, I'm not trading. So you can see there's one day that I've kind of got rid of, which is the Friday long. So, but what do I need to do now? If I'm doing a monthly review, what do I have to do to make sure that I cover all bases and that I do a proper, I actually do a fairly strategic and process orientated review of this system? What do I have to do? What do I have to do to make sure that I'm looking at everything as I should do and not leaving anything out? What should I do with my system? Because remember, I've got a high performance system. That's what I've ended up with. And to arrive at that high performance system, I've excluded some of the days of the week. So what I actually effectively need to do is I need to go back to the point at which I had a system, a base system, and I actually have to add in all of the days of the week, don't I? Because I want to see exactly what's going on. Because remember, and this is why it's good to watch that DLS training video, because in the DLS video what we do is we grab the system, the high performance system, so which is this one here. We grab it, and what we do is we save that, we copy, and then we paste that. So we add in, we basically create a new version, and what we do is we call that our high performance system all days. So that way we've marked up the chart. This is your high performance system, but it's got every day being traded. So I'm going to do that now. And all I'm doing is I don't want to just review the system and just look at the best days I started with. I want to review the system and have a look at every single trading day to make sure that I'm not missing out on days that I should be trading. Because remember that, like we do with our time of the day testing, the flow of money will come in and out of the market at different times, with the seasonal activity, with daylight saving, with all of those factors that come into play within the financial markets. You've got to be making sure that you're keeping a track of when you're. A great example of that is the daylight saving that occurs between obviously the German, the Eurex market, and the US market, and there is a time, or during September and later in the year, you'll find that the volatility changes in the German market because the US market goes onto a daylight saving. Now, when that happens, things start to move a lot sooner in the German market than they previously did. So you've got to be careful of that. You've got to make sure that you're aware of that. You've got to know when these changes are occurring in the market that you're trading. And the same applies to us in Australia and obviously in other markets that you're trading around the world. So the Asian market. So you've just got to be aware of the time and changes in the time zones. So if I'm going to look at my data, I'm gonna load up every single day of the week, Monday through to Friday, and that'll give us a bit of an idea, and we'll see what's happening on those Friday longs. Because remember, on the long side, we're trading every day. On the short side, we're trading every day except for Friday on the long side. So we've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now, once I've done this, once I've loaded every day of the week up, which I'm going to do now. So at the moment, we'll go into our strategy and we'll just double check that everything is as it should be. So we're all true there. There's our Friday false. So we'll turn that to true. Now the next thing I'm going to do, once I turn these settings on and we've got our settings adjusted, what am I going to do next? What's my next step? Well, Jason, what's happened is, I'll explain this because there's a little bit of confusion with Pilot and high performance. I start off with a very scratchy system, a very not a great system generally when I'm doing my testing. It goes through multiple iterations before it arrives at being a high performance system. So what I do is when I get to my high performance system, just before I exclude my days of the week, I've basically got it's my baseline system, or my best pilot system, and then I look at the days of the week, I chop out whatever I don't like trading, then that becomes my high performance system. So it's just that all I'm doing is I'm rolling back to we'll call it my best baseline or pilot system. Okay, so the step between best baseline or best pilot system and your high performance system is just excluding days of the week. That's it. Does that explain it? Have I explained that well enough to everybody, or is anybody still a little bit confused? Yeah, so all we're doing now is we're going, right, well, this is the best system I've got, and I'll go back to my best pilot system by just adding in every day. And hopefully there's something we can glean from those days of the week that will help us. But all we're really doing is we're just getting a picture of what's happening every day. That's it. So once we get every day loaded up, we'll have a look at it on the R tracker. Now remember, when you do this process, you can do it on the R tracker or you can do it in the DLS. I personally prefer the DLS. I would definitely go into, and I'll just grab that up. Just move that over for a second. I'm going to grab the Sky Prep. I'm going to show you where I want you to go. The new Renko training, I've actually added in the new Renko training a section which is the DLS, and I definitely want you to have a look at that, just a refresher of that, because that's really good to go through and review that. So under the Renko Trend Renko, if you go into the quiz under days of the week, that's where you'll find that, and it's definitely worth having a look at. So I'm just going to grab that while we're waiting for this to load. It's loaded up. So let's have a quick look. I'll just okay. So I'm just going to add in. Right, so we've got every day of the week loaded. So now we're getting a full picture. Let's have a look at what is happening on Friday. So if we canvass this these days of the week, you'll see that Monday, we should have probably turned Monday off a while ago. We're bleeding money out on Monday, and it's not looking good at all. Even Wednesday, unless things have improved a little bit, Wednesday looks pretty ordinary. Thursday longs. So the longs are really taking a bit of a hammering. So Friday though, look at Friday. Friday is actually current drawdown 944, max equity 25. So Friday doesn't look too bad, does it? We've got it off, so we may have to review that. Now on the short side, you know, it's a bit of some days look okay, other days not as good. So a bit of a mixed bag there. But what I was going to mention was that, and I'll just go into the course now, I would definitely like you to have a look at the days of the week analysis using the DLS. So I'll just grab that up for you. Now, at the moment, so how do we get, my question to you is, how do we actually get the data from our TradeStation platform? Because we're looking at the numbers here in the R tracker. They don't look too bad, but it doesn't give us a visual. How do we get this information into our DLS and start looking at it, looking at graphs and looking at where the flow of money is? How do we do that? Yeah, so we want to save the performance report as an Excel document rather than an MHT file. So we do that, we save it as an Excel, then we're just pasting our data into our DLS spreadsheet, aren't we? And that gives us a really good look at exactly what is happening with the days of the week. And the reason why we're doing that is we're probably going to do that twice. The first time is just to have a look at what's happening with the days of the week. The second time we're going to do it after we've done our optimization, aren't we? So what I typically like to do is I like to have a first up look. Then I'm going to, once I've had a look at, I can already see that, you know, there's some issues that need to be addressed on a couple of these days a week. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in, now that I've got my best, because remember this is our best pilot system, I'm going to go in and start optimizing this strategy. And I know that what I've got as far as days of the week, I know that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to optimize my time of the day, and then I'm going to optimize start time and end time. So I'm going to break that into two components. I'm going to optimize my start time from a time I'm prepared to start trading, whether it's a time that I'm able to get up, or a time that I'm able to be at the platform, to a time that I'm prepared. I want the furthest start time I would have in the morning. Now, my increment's always going to be a multiple of my time, or a part reflected in my time. So I could do 10 minutes, I can do 1 minute, but it's pretty simple when it's a 1 minute chart, because you can pretty much pick whatever you want. But I'm going to, I've got it set from 9 till 10 here. I've actually done the optimization a little bit earlier, and I ran it from about 8 o'clock till 12 o'clock. So that was my first one. My second one I ran from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, because I don't want to trade the lunch hour, do I? That's generally when things start to quiet down. So what I found was that this small window that I've got at the moment, this hour and a half, was actually not helping me greatly with the current market because I was missing out on about $6,000 worth of profit. So my overall profit went from 10,000 to 16, or sorry, 4,000. It went from 12,000 to 16,000, and that was just time of the day testing on one side of the market. So you can see that when you put a little bit of time and effort in, you'll find that just these small little optimizations can help in a fairly significant way. So the time of the day is critical. That's one that I would definitely be doing on a monthly basis. And remember, you're doing your time of the day testing on your best pilot strategy. The next thing you need to do is you would need to optimize your initial stop. Now, why would we optimize the initial stop? Because the market's changed, the volatility changes. You might find that 42 points is too tight, or 42 points is too much. You might find that, look, well, I don't need to have that big of a stop. I can bring that in a little bit tighter. The next thing I'm adding in with my testing and my trading is I'm adding in my trailing stops. So I'm going to pick one of my trailing stops to add in, and that's going to be what I optimize on. Now, in this strategy, we're not fixed with a trailing stop. We've got an initial stop and a target. That's it. So it's fairly simple. You're either in or out, and you've got your risk is capped with your one winner, one loser, and done. So it's a slightly different strategy, isn't it? Where we've got a fixed stop, a fixed target. We're going for that that good reward to risk, and we're not using a trailing option. Sometimes that works really well. And some of the strategies that I've looked at, when we try to run a trailing stop, it just doesn't improve the system. Yeah, you've got a slightly bigger drawdown, but a lot of the time you'll find that you get some really good results without having the trailing stop. So again, it's going to come back to testing the market you're looking at, and even though it's you're either in or out, you're not taking any partial profit. It's surprising to see how profitable that approach is. But as long as what's the key thing you need to make sure you do if you're going to apply that approach to trading? What's one of the keys that you need to make sure that you do? If you exclude any of these trailing stop options, which we have multiple options there for trailing stop, what's one of the big things you need to do to make sure that you've got your strategy tweaked right and set correctly to give you a good reward to risk? If I'm going to play that game where I just have an initial stop and a target, what do I have to do? Because remember, it's really all about stats, isn't it? It's about your R multiple, your risk multiple, how many times your R multiple can be a positive multiple of your initial risk. So what's one of the keys that we have to make sure that we focus in on when we're setting our risk and reward? Anybody? Nobody? Okay, so the key that we need to focus in on is we need to make sure that we've got a target that's going to be giving us 3-to-1 or better. Ideally, we want it 3-to-1 because we're relying on this system to have a good win rate. The win rate generally on a momentum-based strategy is what? It's typically less than 50%. There it is, 49%. So if we're 1-to-1, we're in trouble because we've got brokerage and commission built in. They're not doing us any favours. So we need to have our reward to risk set at a level where we're getting 2-to-1, 3-to-1 or better. Now, if you have a look at this, our average losing trade is 477, our average winner. So at 1.54, we need to get this up a little bit higher. So even though this system has been doing well, it's not really it's not where it needs to be. It needs to be a lot higher if we're not running a trailing stop. If I'm going to apply a system in the market where I've got a fixed stop, fixed target, I want to know that, if there's going to be some bigger paydays on this strategy. Because as soon as we get below 50% and we start to hit those losing trades and we don't get those bigger winners with volatility, then we're in a little bit of trouble with this strategy. So when I'm optimizing, I'm actually going to spend a little bit of time here making sure when I go through my stops and targets that I've got my initial stop here and my target set correctly. I've got a target of 130 at the moment. You might find that you might want to do a little bit of a canvas of your performance graph here and your particular trade list, and have a look at what the run-up is on these trades, 1300. Because remember that, all right, it ran up 1300. How much did you make? 5, 10, 190. Are you getting all of the profit? Or you're never going to get all of the profit, but how much of the profit are you getting out of some of these bigger trades? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. Excuse me. And the other thing is, if there's good volatility in the market, are we doing ourselves an injustice by capping our target at 1300? So what could we do to improve our target? What do we need to be watching and looking for to make sure that we're not ripping ourselves off or leaving too much on the table? So if we go to the daily chart and we look at the VM indicator, I'm just going to do a quick check to make sure that everybody can hear me, because I'm not getting much response tonight. I don't know if it's just a slow Wednesday or what's happening, but just doing a quick sound check, seeing if anyone's listening out there. Excellent, fantastic, good stuff. All right, so what I'm most concerned about here is I want to make sure that I'm not giving. See, I can't really tell in this strategy unless I'm looking at each individual trade, which we don't do. I mean, realistically, some of you might, but I don't look at each individual trade. I don't have time for that because there's a lot of trades that are being taken and produced. I mean, I try to look at as much as I can, but the reality is you're always going to miss stuff, or you just don't look at every single one. What I'm concerned about is that if I set my strategy, my high performance system, and it's got a target of $1,300, I'm worried that the run up, I'm only seeing the run up to $1,300. I'm not seeing what the potential is, am I? So I need something within the strategy, or something with on my desktop that tells me, look, hey Shane, there's a lot of money in the market at the moment. There's a lot of volatility in the market. There's a lot of potential for you to use that momentum strategy to make more money. What's the tool that I'm going to use to get that information? What tool is going to help me get that? The VM indicator. So I need to be watching this, because as the volatility drops, I'm expecting that my price or my target may drop as well. So I've got to watch that. Now we do have within some of the strategies the VM indicator that allows us to use that as a target, don't we? Within our strategies, we have the ability in some of our systems to use the VM as a take profit option, which is a great option, because what you're doing then is you're taking away the requirement to manually look at your charts as much and to gauge volatility, and you're building that volatility into your stops and targets, which is where we want to kind of play a little bit, don't we? So if we get a really good push on volatility, it's being picked up in our target, and we'll potentially get that bigger trade that we're after. So just be careful when you're doing your optimization. Spend a little bit of time having a look at, and I know we've come up with a good system with this with Nick's strategy. It's great, but spend a little bit of time having a look at the volatility parts of your system. Like your TP is a volatility part of your stop. Your support resistance, kind of, but to a less degree. Your swing trail is definitely a volatility part because it's identifying, the swing and as well support resistance too. Your pivots again, your pivots or your swing trail stop, they're again a volatility type. Now the targets, a fixed target. If you select a fixed target, that's not a volatility stop. So if you're planning on using an intuitive strategy that is aligned with the market volatility, you're not achieving that by having a fixed stop or a fixed target. So you have to make sure that when you're doing your testing, that you're aware of exactly what the inputs are and how they can help you, but also how they can be a bit of a roadblock to potential profits. So I would suggest that spending a little bit more time doing some testing on the volatility parts of the strategy would definitely be something that I would encourage all of you to do. And just because you've got a best baseline system based on your stop, your initial stop, your trailing stop, or if you've got no trailing stop in your target, doesn't mean you can't change it. Like if this has been running really well, I'm not locked into this initial stop target. I can change whatever I want. So spend a little bit of time and customize it to be more responsive to what you want. Now the other thing is to remember that the max wins and max losses are good, but you've got to also be aware that you might have a $20 loss and you're done for the day and miss out on a $1,000 winner. So be very careful about accepting every optimization that comes through as being the best optimization based on max wins, max losses, because it's purely a numbers game, isn't it? It's purely a win and a loss, that's it. You're not really, you should really optimize these two and match them against the dollars lost, dollars won or dollars lost. So I would definitely encourage you to have max wins, max losses versus dollars won, dollars lost when you're doing your optimization. Again, turn everything on. So go to Friday, turn that to true. And the whole process of going back to your pilot, your best pilot system, is to get it to a point where it's better for the next week of trading than you originally had. It doesn't matter if you change something on the system, but I definitely wouldn't optimize every single input. That's not the goal for the optimization, is it? So we're optimizing back. You might decide that, well, I'm going to look at the last 3 months of data or last 4 months of data as my optimization, and I'm going to go initial stop, trailing stop if I don't have one, or if I have one, and my target, and that's it. And then once I've done those three, then I'm going to look at my time of the day testing. And then once I've done all of that and I've come up with my absolute best system, my best pilot system, then I'm going to break down and have a look at every single one of these days of the week and see what my new optimization values are and see which days I'm keeping or which days I'm excluding. Because I don't want to get into a position where I'm actually doing that before I go through and do all of the optimization. Now remember, I don't want to go through and re-optimize this entire strategy. I'm not doing the high time frame filter or the MACD or the momentum, or I'm not looking at optimizing my entries. That's not the game here. The game is to make sure you keep it fairly simple. You don't over-optimize. We don't want to curve fit the strategy. We want it to be just simply If the market conditions change, then we need to ebb and flow with the market. We need to make sure that we've got that volatility built into our system, and that if things starts to drop off, you can almost see it if you're trading manually. You can see when there's days where you think, God, there's no range here. I'm trading a day here where there's absolutely no range. Why am I trading? Like if we broke this out for the morning session and we started trading here, you would just be questioning your decision to trade this period here, wouldn't you? Because even though you had a nice run up early morning or from 4 o'clock, it's really done nothing since that time, has it? So it's waiting for the US market to open. Now, why would you be trading that during that period? So this is why it's important to have the volatility components built into your strategy. Now, that's what I wanted to touch on. Remember that once you've got your best pilot system, you've loaded that in, and you've done all your optimizations, then all you're doing is you're picking the best days of the week to trade, and that becomes your new high performance system, doesn't it? It's the same system as you previously had. It's just been retuned for the next month, and it's ready to go. So part of that process is looking at the DLS and making sure that you've got all the best days of the week trading, and that you've got each of your days is on an upward equity curve. So what I mean by that is, if I look at my equity curve here, and this was a day of the week, I want to see the profit going up for that day. I don't want to see it coming down, do I? Like really, I'm always going to have a circuit breaker for my day of the week, whether it's 500 or 1,000 or whatever the value is, and then I turn that day off. So I want to make sure when I'm looking at an individual day of the week that my equity curve and my profit for that day are heading in the same direction. Any questions on that before we have a look at the Renko?